Well, I think if you trace back through the time, L E Shaw was a remarkable person as far as building the community of lands. He built churches, schools, he arranged for payments to be made on the houses that were built, and he was just a really solid individual as far as making things happen for the workers that he had employed there in lands. And it made the community much stronger.
Around 1950, 51, or in that area, two things were built at lands that my grandfather and Otis Eisner were heavily involved in. One was the rink, the arena, the other was the church. They wanted a facility, the community wanted a facility. LE thought that a facility was the thing to have, talking about as a community builder. And LE said to Otis, Otis, you should do this. You should be in charge of this. And Otis gathered a bunch of community people, and we gotta remember them. It isn't just LE and Otis. It would have gotten nowhere with just them. They had the vision and they had the leadership. But a whole community was energized.
Dateline, Nova Scotia. Lance is a tiny Nova Scotian village halfway between Halifax and Truro. Its reason for existence is the L E Shaw brick plant, whose igloo-shaped kilns produce 80,000 bricks a day. But the story of Lance is far more than that of a flourishing industry. To me, the most impressive thing about Lance is the way the people in this model community cooperate. Good housing and a good school were part of the solution to happier living at Lance. But 2 years ago, the people decided they'd like something more, a community arena. If ever there was a cooperative project, it was in the construction of the East Hants Arena. First, the community leaders hustled around the East Hants area and sold shares in the arena at $5 apiece. The shares would be non-interest bearing until the rink was paid for. The promoters couldn't offer the shareholders any financial return on their investment, but they sold them on the idea as a wonderful thing for the children and for the entire community. As it had done in the housing development, the company supplied the bricks at cost. It also donated the services of Otis Eisner to supervise the construction and gave him 4 men in addition to the masons. Otis likes to do things on schedule. He and his fellow workers tackled the project July 1st. When Otis said he'd finish it by December 20th, skeptics asked him which year, 1959 or 1960. Otis just grinned at that. He said, "This year." His doubting friends told him he was crazy. Why, they argued, it would take weeks alone to put on the roof. Otis scoffed. "Weeks," he said. "Nothing like it. We'll do it in a single day."
L E Shaw had planned actually to build a hospital in Lance. And the rink, I guess, took priority over that. And he appointed Otis to look after the whole construction of the facility, and I think 3 or 4 other men with him. So it was because of that the whole thing got started. And like I said, when they put the building up, when they were doing the roof, there was a story that someone said, "How long is it going to take?" Otis said, "1 day," and they laughed at him. And how long did it take? 1 day. They had about 100 people there that day, apparently, putting the roof on that building. So that's the kind of, and they sold shares. There's no end to the community support that they got for that building, and it's just a really remarkable thing to be done in a small community.
He began planning for his roof a fortnight ahead. It would take 30,000 feet of lumber, and it would require lots of help. He got the lumber at a bargain, and he got the help. 110 hand-picked volunteers who turned up for work one Sunday morning. Among them were ordinary and skilled workers, executives from the head office in Halifax, and young children who were eager to see the rink completed in time for hockey. Each had a specific job, and all gave their services gratis. They started the roof at 8 a.m. They drove the last nail to complete it at 5 o'clock the same day. And on December 20th, as Otis Eisner had predicted, the East Hants Arena was completed. At Lance, they have a way of getting things done without too much wrangling or delay.
Otis, I got a chance to meet Otis fairly early in my life, of course, when my late wife was his granddaughter. And Otis was just a remarkable man. He did everything you'd possibly want from someone that had 5 times the education he had. He had a great skill level of getting people to work for him and with him. And that's the best thing I can say. He was just a remarkable person, and he was a big part of L E Shaw Limited.
You earn it. That's how you get respect. You earn it. Otis was a mechanic, a genius. He knew everything about making brick and clay products. He had the respect of the men, and they worked for him. And that work in those days was all physical work. He was a great leader. People followed him. I knew him as well as a kind man with a great sense of humor. He took me on fishing trips on more than one occasion with my cousin Robbie.
The big thing that I think most people maybe don't know is that the whole place was run with volunteers. And of course, Keith and his father, Os, they were big people in running the whole facility, along with, as they would say, all of the rink rats that come to clean the ice, and Bob Miller, who had two sons that become great athletes, Gary and Lorne. And so I just can't say enough about the process, because I was quite young, and anytime I could get in through an event, it was a major outing for me and a lot of other people. So it was just a tremendous asset to the whole community, probably from Stewiacke right through to Wellington.
I think it was true that rink was the start and the center of it for a long time. I mean, I remember Leon Miller telling me that he played senior hockey there and other places, of course, but it just fits, but it also fits. And this is what I feel even better about. That is not only my grandfather, it's Otis, and especially it's the volunteers who worked on the rink. And that, I think, is the brilliance of what you're doing with this honor. Honoring those people as a group of people, because it never would have happened with just the leadership, or the land, or the material. Had to have people put it all together, to do the hard work and to raise the extra money that was needed to do it. Just in the same way that others did it with the newest additions.
If you look at the old facility, I guess you could say that we wore it out. We wore it out. And when we decided we were going to have a new facility, the amount of people, again, it wasn't just in Lance then, they were over the whole area. I mean, we had the gentlemen's, we had National Gypsum jumped in with Pat Mills, Rob Jenkins, Lenny Gallant. They were business people in the community, and that's what made the thing be successful.
There's a belief that we have, that LE had, that Otis had, the people had, faith in people, trust in people, community-minded, giving back to the communities that we benefit from, and creating communities. And Lance is a perfect example, but the arena and using that arena brought everybody together. So it made a much bigger community than just Lance. It was a much broader community, and that's a tribute to two great minds and a lot of volunteers. A wonderful thing.
I had so much pleasure in sports and made so many friends that I couldn't have done anything in any other area that is as much, give me so much benefits and pleasure as hockey in East Hants. Tremendous, tremendous outlook, and it all started with a small group from East Hants, volunteers that worked their tail off to make it successful.
Well, I'm thrilled to death that they're being recognized, they being my grandfather, L E Shaw, Otis Eisner, his right-hand man at Lance, the man that was in charge of the building of the arena, and a community of volunteers that actually built that arena and made it happen. It took everybody, it took a community to do it, and I am proud. And he would be proud too about this. This is a wonderful honor, and thank you very much.
2024 East Hants Sport Hall of Fame inductee, L E Shaw.